What is up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on this beautiful Tennessee morning. We're out here fishing a little area I like to call the mud pits that produces some very healthy bass. I'm thinking my next PB largemouth might come out of here. I've caught some sizable fish in somewhat austere conditions. Anyhow, we're doing bank fishing secrets part 2. The first one got an awesome response, man. A lot of positive feedback, good vibes for me. Video did quite well, so I'm not sure what I want to do with these yet, but it's working. I enjoy making them, so we'll keep at it. Let's get into it. Let's get that skunk off our backs first of all, see what we can do. We are going to be starting out with the trap today. This is a cotton cordell. I'm quite fond of these. I like them more than the Bill Lewis. I know that's blasphemy to some of y'all, but these have became my favorite trap over the years. I think because they were so inexpensive, I started buying them. The old Super Spot, I mean, they're like $1 or $2 cheaper than the Bill Lewis. Don't quote me on that, but I know they're cheaper. Got an awesome rattle and a great action. I'm thinking we can pick up something on this bad boy. There's a ton of rock in this area, a ton of cover, so we very well might lose it in a hurry. There's a little fish right there. But I'm also thinking if we can avoid snagging up, we can actually maybe get some decent fish on. Oh, good fish on the trap. That's a decent one, man. Oh, he choked that. Good looking bass right there. All right, guys, first fish of the day on that trap. An absolute beauty. Got that skunk off our backs. Let's get into it. Thanks, girl. First one I got for y'all are 3 different types of baits you should bring with you when you're fishing a new body water, any body water in general, trying to dial in on that bite, find out what your fish are eating. We got the search bait. This could be a bladed jig, square bill, lipless in this case, spinner bait, paddle tail, that sort of thing. Something that'll cover a lot of water, occasionally something that'll make noise, draw those fish's attention, kind of pick them out when you can't exactly target them. A good water covering bait. Second one is your popping bait. Something like this. We got a big old worm on them. Hoping they eat this today, but any worm will really do. Craws, creature baits, that sort of soft plastic. And last but not least, my personal favorite, a finesse type bait. So I got a baby rage craw on in this instance. I haven't caught a fish on one of these yet. I'm hoping to today. We'll see what the bite's like here. I may jump locations if it's not too hot, but we caught a fish within the first few casts, so got a good feeling about it. Anyhow, any type of finesse bait, Ned rigs, your smaller baits, between those 3 you should be able to key in on what your fish are in the mood for if they are biting on your current body of water. Let's catch another fish. Oh, there we go. They want the trap, man. That is a big fish right there. Tell me you're a bass, man. I don't know what we just got on. We might have foul hooked a catfish or something. It's fighting real weird. Doesn't feel like I got those hooks through the mouth. I could be wrong. Oh no, that's a beautiful bass. There y'all go. Catch and release. Not too happy about that. It's pretty evident that we can smack them on that rattle trap. Brings me to our next tip, which is getting that reaction strike out of your plastics. We're going to be working this as a The Mayor by Rapala, their new soft plastic line. Got that rigged on a 3/0 EWG type hook with a 1/4 ounce sliding bullet weight. Now I might tie on a 1/8 ounce if this seems too heavy, but I think this is going to allow us to get that action that we need and get us that next big bite. So I have fished a lot of paddle tails. Kind of my go-to fall spring bait when we got a lot of active shad in my area. And I've grown really accustomed to twitching and popping my paddle tail. So instead of a straight retrieve, try working your bait with a series of twitches and pops. Now I don't mean cover crazy water, pop, 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 pop. I mean pop, pop in place. Pick up that slack, twitch it again in place. Almost work it like you would a jerk bait. Oh, something's dogging us right now. So there is absolutely a time and place for a straight retrieve, and I have had fish prefer it, but I find most of the time, especially when they're eating something like the trap, aggressively twitching your bait in place is going to trigger that predator instinct, that fight or flight. That bait fish is running from them, or so they think, and they're going to chase it down. It also gives that fish a little less time to check out your bait, recognize that it's not their daily forage, as well as drawing attention to your bait in the water, standing out, looking like that prom queen in the horror movie, getting chased down, just irresistible to these fish. Now while I think if I throw that paddle tail long enough, we're absolutely gonna get hit on it, I feel like I'm missing fish. We're gonna throw on this tube real quick and just pop it around. See if they're digging that green pumpkin-y feel today. Smaller profile. We'll pick up that paddle tail a bit later, see if I can will something to eat it. This is not weedless in the slightest bit, so I don't know how well it's going to do here. I think I can fish it in a manner where I don't snag up on these rocks, but it is possible. Good fish. Hey man, all we need to do is change that. That feels like that's a chunk, man. That is a good fish. Get her in here. I only have 8-pound line on. Don't jump. They shake these tubes very, very easily. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, pretty one. I use that power to get you right over here where I want you. Beautiful. Oh yes. That's what I'm freaking talking about, guys. Look at that fish on the old tube. He would have shook me in a heartbeat. Look at that fish, guys. What an absolute unit out here. That's what I'm talking about. This place breeds very healthy, nice bass. You can get them from the bank. I want to take the kayak here. I'm pretty positive I may be able to break my PB in this water. Now I'm going to get her back in because you've been out for a minute, and we appreciate you biting on the tube. And off she goes back to the depths. Sorry I muddied you up a little bit. Let's see if we can pick up another one. So that brings me to our next point, which is try different baits. Same simple, easy tip right there. Everyone's gonna tell you it, but there's something to it, man. When I first discovered tubes, well, let me get this bait back in the water, see if we can catch something else. I'll get into this. All right, our line is pretty good. We just our drag. This is only 8-pound line. Now, I guess what I'm kind of getting into is don't get stuck down that Senko hole. That's what I like to call it, because a lot of dudes do it with stick baits. For me, when I first got into fishing artificials, it was rooster tails. I was convinced I could only catch fish on rooster tails. That was what they bit the best. Old fashioned, it just worked. I'm kind of out of breath. I'm really excited that I caught that fish. Following that, bought some crankbaits. Got super obsessed with crankbaits. You have no idea how much money I have lost through snagging those baits. It's probably some kind of ridiculous number. I used to bring 8 with me. I'd probably lose half of them in an 8-hour day of fishing, maybe more. But what I'm getting at is try different baits, such as your tube. So I was out fishing, throwing my crankbaits, whatnot, throwing my rooster tails, Came up on two old fellers. By a bridge I was fishing. We're all kind of fishing by each other. They were pulling out bass after bass. It was an absolute slam fest. I couldn't catch a single one. One looked at the other. They both kind of acknowledged that they were both using the same bait. They were both using tubes. So went out to old Walmart, bought myself some tubes. Soon became one of my all-time favorite baits. Probably would have never even tried it. Didn't think I could catch fish on it. Now, majority of these baits you're gonna be able to catch fish on. You just have to put them to work and figure out how to kind of master that lure. Figure out what conditions it thrives in, that sort of thing. You can only learn that by tying it on. I highly recommend what I do, and what I still do to this day is I bring at least two rods with me. One of them with a bait that I'd like to catch fish on, and one of them with a bait that I know is going to catch fish. I go out and try my luck and slowly get really confident with those lures that I otherwise wouldn't be fishing. So, you know, throwing the first cast here or there, throwing a few casts throughout the day. And it's done absolute wonders for my confidence in working different baits, learning what baits work like this. Obviously, if they wanted the tube, I could have forced that paddle tail down their throat and maybe caught 2 or 3 fish. But this is what they decided to want today. Like I said, I would have never known about this bait. Oh my gosh, it's a beautiful smallmouth, my friends. Oh, gotta be real careful. So I haven't caught a smallmouth out of this water yet. I knew they would be here. But just look at her. Absolutely gorgeous, man. We have the trifecta in my area on this body of water. There's spotted bass, there's smallmouth, and there's largemouth. Check her out, my friends. We're just getting all muddy today, but it is worth it. It is a slam fest. Looks like we found the bait that's gonna work for us today. Now, I might experiment with a couple others, but I think we're gonna be doing a little bit of work with that tube now. On your way, girl. I couldn't tell if she was a spot when I was pulling her up. I think we've earned ourselves a little coffee break. So try different lures, my friends. I'm telling you, you never know what's gonna work really good in your area. Sometimes it's the thing that you wouldn't really expect. A successful day of bank fishing is just the most rewarding thing. I have 2 kayaks. I do kayak fishing. I've been on boats a few times. Probably could count on 2 hands how many bass boats I've been on. Always invited with friends, that sort of thing. I don't have the storage nor the funds to get it, but I'm telling you, something about smacking them from the bank, just kind of using your instincts, picking the right lure, picking the right location for that weather. It's just the most rewarding experience. There we go. That's what I'm talking about, man. Another beautiful fish. Just a slam fest out here today. And we got some decent size. I mean, even the small ones aren't that small. Look at her. Beautiful largemouth. Good looking fish. Good, we are recording. Good fish. Doesn't feel quite as big, but it's got some size to it, man. Oh good, I am recording. Oh, never mind, it's not that big, it just felt real big. I'm just getting overexcited now. A little chunker, she's got belly on her. Beautiful. There we go, pretty little one, man. The one with the tube. we are back at the place and we're gonna get into the baits, what I like about them, what I don't like about them, why I chose to bring them with me, and why they're effective in our area, or the area I was fishing today, which was a couple days ago. But whatever, anyhow, I'm editing the video now. Figured we do this breaking down the bait portion. Now, started out with the lipless crankbait. This is a bait that thrives in my area during that fall to winter transition when the shad are heavy in my river system. I'm blessed. I live by 2 excellent rivers with great fish that feed many other bodies of water. Anyhow, the area we were fishing is fed by the Cumberland River. Now, this bait is spectacular at manipulating through the current. I can kind of choose my depth, whereas a square bill kind of has a set depth as well as a diving. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love square bills too. But when I'm smacking rock, this is one of my go-tos right here. So this is the Cotton Cordell. That's what we were using today, what it looks like in the box. Now this is the Super Spot. I don't really like the one that's not the Super Spot. It is a lot cheaper. The Super Spot is the way to go though for me. We were using Wounded Shad, which is this one. My favorite color scheme on it. It's got a little bit of white, a little bit of red, got that amber back and the black top. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. One major con of this bait, and the reason it is a little more inexpensive, well, at least why I guess it would be, is because of our hooks. Now, I've never really had an issue with the hooks in general. However, I have lost a good amount of fish on traps. Mostly it's because they T-boned that bait. That was what was going on with their second fish. When I reviewed the footage, I saw it was just lodged in its mouth like this. It's actually how we caught our first fish too, but we were able to bag that in. Now here's a look at my box. I have another box of these too. This is a bait that I just keep on hand. If I'm at Walmart doing a little grocery shopping, I'll straight up, you know, grab a bait or two. Sometimes it's a trap, so I'll just throw them in my box. Now, these are the OG traps. Well, I guess we got 2. This is Bill Lewis. They're a little more pricey, but they get that job done. Most people prefer them. They have much better hooks on them. There you go. You want to check that out. Now, at the rate I snag these baits when I am fishing them heavily from the bank, I don't really have that ability of a boat or a kayak to kind of paddle over and unsnag them. I just lose them like crazy sometimes. So I will go for the cheaper option. I'll take the worst hooks. It just works better, in my opinion, for me. And I've grown quite partial to the Cordells. Now, this is a neat one. Check that one out. Just picked this one up recently. It's the Hammer Trap. This is another Bill Lewis one. Really cool coloring on it. I haven't really thrown it yet. I tied it on. I bought it for my Wisconsin trip while I was at Bass Pro Shops in Illinois. Now I did tie it on, threw it around for maybe 3 or 4 casts and decided I didn't want to lose it once I saw the area we were kind of fishing. So yeah, that's all I gotta say about that one. I think I'm gonna catch some good fish on it. It is a bit heavier. One more thing. I prefer the 1/2 ounce size with the rod we were working it on, which was a 7-foot heavy fast action rod. That is not my go-to cranking rod. Like I said, I didn't really prepare to throw around the lipless crankbait as much. I didn't plan on it, so I didn't bring my crank setup. I prefer a longer rod, a 7.6 moderate fast when I am working bladed jigs, spinner baits, or lipless 2 square bills. Now for diving crankbaits, I like a medium heavy glass rod. I have a lot better success rate with the hookups. I'm not worried about sensitivity or anything. The next bait we were using was the tube. Now this is my go-to tube. Kind of got into where I started throwing them. I got very, very lucky. My first cast with an actual tube, I caught a really nice fish on. It helped me build that confidence up quite quickly. I prefer a tube rig with one of these Eagle Claw tube head jigs. Now this is just a match made in heaven, and they're both sold at my Walmart. That's why I buy them all the time. So this is a 1/8 ounce rated tube head. Not the greatest hook in the world, but I'm not catching 10-pounders out here, so I'm not too concerned about it. But you got your tube head right there, a right angle for your eye running down to your actual hook. And they're just meant for each other, man. I'll rig one up, and I highly recommend pre-rigging these bad boys. Basically, all you're gonna do is spread those tentacles or feelers or whatever they're supposed to be out, and start out with your eye, and carefully run that tube through the plastic. It is a very, very tight fit. That's why I prefer it. And we'll get it on there. I know y'all can't see what I'm doing. I should have worn my other camera for this portion, but we get it in there and then you're simply gonna pop your eye through like this. Now there's not really an air bubble there. If there is one, I will re-rig it so there's not. I find this really easy to manipulate under the water. It just gets bit. It's one of those baits that gets bit just about anywhere. I absolutely love them. Highly recommend them. So yeah, if you haven't tried and if you're able to fish them in your area. Now you can rig these with an EWG. These ones in particular might be a little difficult. They're kind of small. They are the 2.75 inch ones, but when I'm fishing larger tubes, most of the time I'm gonna opt for a larger tube head, which I have some on hand, but you can rig them EWG style. I don't like it quite as much. Just put a sliding, basically rig an EWG through it, put that hook in the plastic, and then you're gonna run a sliding bullet weight. You can run that weight within the actual bait as well. If I'm doing something like that, I'd rather fish a craw or something. Anyhow, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I had a great time making this one, as always. If you like this sort of thing, drop me a like, comment, whatever. If you got questions, I do my best to answer all the comments in an expedient manner. Anyhow, I gotta get going. I got some stuff to do today. Don't we, Mars? Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and get some good fish on, my